Hello and welcome to Film Seizure. We are currently in the third week of Spooky Month. I'm not going to try to get too spooky or I'll end up getting sexy on accident.
So well, this is a little bit of a sexy, spooky movie.
Yeah, this movie gets...
it fits. It's apropos for this movie.
Yeah, this movie gets real sexy real fast, fellas.
Like immediately.
Immediately. So yes, week 3 of Spooky Times. We're discussing Lifeforce from 1985, but first of all, let me introduce you to Jason Oliver. Hi, Jason Oliver.
Hi. Here for third week of Dan O'Bannon goodness.
Yeah, I guess I should have mentioned the theme is kind of Dan O'Bannon, right? Either written or directed or some involvement.
Or both.
Yeah. And Jeff, as you just heard. Hi, Jeff.
Hey, how's it going, Chuck? I mean, we could call this Dan O'Spooky.
Dano Spooky Month.
Yeah.
Spook O'Bannon.
Spook O'Bannon.
Dano Boone.
Oh, man, that's good. I like that, too. I like it, too. Anyway, how's it going, guys? We got ourselves, we're going back to sci-fi.
Yeah.
We got some space vampires. We're up to our pits and space vampires here.
Yeah, and
there are lots of them.
We're led there by Tobe Hooper.
Yes.
Indeed.
As the director of this movie. Is this the next vampire flick he did after? Is this after Salem's Lot or before? I can't remember now.
Salem's Lot was in the late 70s.
Yeah.
Damn, I can't believe that's that old, but it makes sense.
This is after 1985. This was the first of his 3-picture deal with Canon Films.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that here in a minute because I mean there's not much to say about it.
Yeah, there's not a ton,
but I think it's interesting what he does here with this 3-picture deal. When we'll talk about that here in a minute. So yeah, based on a short novel, 120-page novel called Space Vampires, which. This is not a very close adaptation of at all. I was reading the plot synopsis of the Space Vampires, and it's a wholly different thing.
Well, I don't think that you could write a cohesive novel of this movie in 125 pages or whatever you said it was.
120 pages.
Yeah, more like 520 pages.
Yeah, I
don't think there's enough podcast time to talk about
Lifeforce,
like, making this movie make sense.
Oh my god, yeah. So this is gonna be a fun one to talk about, I think. Though
this movie has more sets than like
it has more characters than all 280 plus episodes we've had put together. Holy shit, the number of characters in this movie.
Many people in this movie.
Some just fuck off and we don't ever hear from them again.
Yeah.
They're casually mentioned as a fuck off in some cases, right? Like, he fucked off.
Yeah, he fucked off. I mean,
Jason,
there are so many characters in this movie. At one point, our 2 main heroes show up at a NATO installment saying, "We're looking for Dr. what's his face?" And they're like, Fallada. We're looking for Dr. Fallada. And one guy says, "I don't think he's around here." Another guy comes up and he's like, "Do you know who Dr. Fallada is?" And he says, "I haven't heard of him."
Yeah.
And that's a plot point.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. So, Jason, you put together the choices for Dan O'Bannon Month. Why don't you tell us, if you can, why you chose this particular movie?
Well, I know I chose it, I think, primarily because I hadn't seen it in a while, and I knew Jeff was dug on this one. But honestly, I kind of wish I swapped Dead and Buried for Space Invaders, because that kind of would have made a little bit more sense. But there's always another day for Space Invaders. But Lifeforce was going to be in no matter what.
I don't know how we were going to do an episode on that Atari game. It would have just been trump.
I'm thinking of Invaders from Mars. Sorry.
Okay.
Invaders from Mars.
Oh, Invaders from Mars is
because that's O'Bannon and Hooper again.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, they just ran it back. But no, I mean, Life Force, I knew was going to be a fun one because it's so bonkers and easy to look at least for the first half.
My God. And yeah, it's kind of funny.
This movie has one hell of a first act. Like,
yes,
an
it does.
Unbelievably good first act.
Yeah, and I should also say this has been on the list for a while because I got that that Shout Factory release when it came out.
See, I didn't get that, and it's hard to find now. And this movie is hard to find online to stream. Yeah. It is not easy to stream.
I have a feeling it's
TV or something.
I think it's a Canon thing, man. It's because all those rights have kind of scattered to the wind.
I had to watch it.
Freevee. Did you watch it on Freevee?
I had to watch it on Freevee. Yeah.
Now I will admit,
how many commercials were there?
Like 6 or 7. It wasn't really terrible.
That wasn't that bad.
That's not true.
Yeah.
I will say I know it's not that bad because for the first time in Film Seizure history, I watched this movie twice just because I'd seen it when I got it on. Yeah, I'd seen it before, and I thought that's a fun little interesting movie. But now I have to think about it for this show, so I watched it yesterday. And then I realized I must have zoned out through a massive amount because, like I said, there are characters who just disappear.
Well, good. I'm glad someone can help us make sense.
And
of it all.
Then so today I thought, you know what? I'm going to put it on again on Freevee. Just let it soak into my brain bits. Doesn't help. It does not help. So I'm sorry, I have no answers for you. But
I don't feel this movie's too complicated. Honestly,
well, the concept is not super complicated.
Right,
it's
complicated,
the devil is in the details.
With the rules of the vampires,
yeah,
they are very slippery and they change a lot.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Chuck, this is your first time seeing it, is that correct?
Yes.
And what did you think?
So I had a complicated relationship with this. I was like, oh, I like this. Oh, I don't like this. Oh, I like this. Oh, I really don't like this. I went back and forth, and by the end I was like, I like this. It was a fun movie. And you can't spend, like you said, the devil's in the details. If you spend too much time mired in there, you're just going to be like, I don't know.
You're going to be a dried out husk.
Yes.
Of a sucked out human.
This movie is it emblematic? No, I don't know the word, but this movie kind of replicates the life force sucking of the vampires almost. It's kind of eating at you the whole time and drying you.
Yeah.
The more you try to pay attention to it, the less things make sense, and your brain starts leaving your body.
Yeah, Steph touched my shoulder while I was watching it, and I saw some dust fly up. I'm like, no.
My favorite. Did you ever hear the Leonard Maltin review of this?
No.
It's hilarious. He starts it out, whoa, did somebody get the license plate of that movie? This is the wildest thing I've seen in a long time.
That's pretty funny.
Fair. That's fair. Yeah, it's man, it's too big for what it is. There is something that's said. I think Tobe Hooper is the one who says they should have just kept the name of the novel, The Space Vampires, because then you would have looked at it in a different perspective.
Yeah.
I think because the first, this is weird. Okay. I'll say it. I'm of two opinions of this movie. One, I think it looks phenomenal in every facet. In every facet, this movie is designed all to greatness. The movie itself is bad. It's a bad movie. Because like I said, there's too much going on that's trying to fit into 110 minutes or whatever it is.
It's about a clean 2 hours.
Yeah. So there's too much going on there because so the movie opens, oh my God, they dump exposition on us instantly about the spaceship because so the book takes place in the late 21st century. Tobe Hooper and Dan O'Bannon decided we're going to pull it back to the present because we can tie in the whole Halley's Comet thing. They don't have to do that, but whatever.
They could have gone 77 years later.
Well, exactly. They could have gone the next time around.
Yeah.
But the thing is that I'm guessing making it present day would have probably saved some scratch, which probably would have certainly been on the mind of Menachem Golan and Yoram Globus.
It certainly would save some production design money. Yeah.
So, but it's what they do though is they take what they have and then they design this beautiful movie. But anyway, particularly in this first scene. So we learn about this spaceship that has this. For some reason, we have to know that it has a specific space drive that simulates gravity. That is
Churchill, right?
The Churchill, the HMS Churchill.
But it looks just like any other.
Oh, it's a space shuttle. It's a space shuttle with solar panels.
The old space shuttles. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, and then they send another space shuttle up because at one point. The Columbia. And then they fist bump and the whole thing explodes. And it's great. They broed out over the Columbia.
There's an easy explanation for why we need to know that fuel type eliminates whatever makes the ship have gravity. It's so they don't have to deal with anti-gravity.
Well, sure. But then they do deal with anti-gravity later.
I mean, in 1985, I'm watching shows like Transformers and G.I. Joe where humans are in space in things that have gravity. I didn't need that even as an 8-year-old.
You were an 8-year-old. You're not an adult.
Well, fair. I don't need it
questioning
today.
The integrity. Well, you're not.
But anyway, I know. But still, it's too much.
I'm far more interested in them explaining other things than that.
True.
Exactly.
I mean, that was done over it was an exposition dump, sure, but it was done so quickly it's hardly worth mentioning.
It's almost as if the movie was without saying, all right, roll up your sleeves because we got something for you. And it's like you're gonna have to work through this movie with us here. And that's fine, because in a way, it's not like I'm not liking this movie's dumbness. It's like right. I'm on board. But anyway. So they're in this spaceship and they're going to take a look at Halley's Comet. And Halley's Comet's a big green blob flying at them. By the way, also, it starts off with crazy Henry Mancini football highlight music.
Oh my God, the music is
the music is so.
This music is so over the top.
It is
holding
you
song. Down. It does. Yeah, it does sound like it. I don't.
No, I think it is the football song.
I mean, it's like did I accidentally put in a DVD of watching
like NFL films? NFL films or something use the Lifeforce theme.
I think they must have. I mean, because the Indy 500 used the Delta Force theme.
Yeah, I almost opened this by saying we were talking about football and not the Lifeforce.
But do you know that for sure? Did you look that up, or?
I'm pretty sure. I'll look it up now. You guys.
Okay.
Talk.
So anyway, man, I mean, and that music is so fast and so overbearing that like the credits have to catch up to it, to the point where it's like the opening credits are only like seriously like 90 seconds or something. It is. That it has no interest in you knowing anything about anybody being in this movie or having worked on this movie. So anyway, so they get to Halley's Comet and they notice that there's like this. Well, let's just call it a space vampire bat dildo in space, because that's kind of what it looks like. It looks like a dildo that is made for Halloween to look like it has bat wings. Now that I think about it, that is apt. Okay. Anyway, so they're like, oh, what's this? And like Steve Railsback he's something else in this.
Steve Railsback, has he ever put in a compelling performance in his life? I'm seriously asking. He pops up a lot, and always like, it's Steve Railsback. Like he's been in interesting movies. He's been in good movies, but is he ever good? I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Is he good in this? I don't think so. But he's weird and crazy, and that works.
Yeah. I mean, he's all right in Turkey Shoot.
Yeah, but he's still just kind of like boring Steve Railsback. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. I mean, but So anyway, he's like,
That's
we got to
a much
go.
better movie than its cast.
Yeah, we got to get up in there and check out what's going on in this space dick. And everybody else is like, are you sure? And he's like, oh yeah, we got to get in there. And so they all float over in spacesuits. And this is the first sign that you've got yourself all of the $25 million on screen here, because they float into the spaceship thing that's hanging out in the coma of the comet. And they're like, it's like crystalline, but it's also got a bunch of dead like man bats floating around.
Yeah.
And they're like, huh, that's interesting. Again, these people, this goes back to a comment I made about in Alien. It's like this shit is like every day to them, apparently, that they're going to see some alien shit. And then they go and they find these 3 crystals, and there are naked people in them. 2 guys and a girl. One of those guys is Mick Jagger's younger brother.
Yeah, I was going to mention that too.
And everybody, us included, are looking at Mathilda May, our space girl, if you will. And like one guy's like, I've been in space for like, I don't know, however many months. She looks fucking perfect. Like, whoa, settle down there, guy. And they decide to bring the people in the crystals back to the shuttle, and they're going to bring a dead bat. All of this seems like great ideas to me. But what do I?
I mean, you would totally do that. You would totally do that.
Well, there seemed to be no argument over protocol here. You know, it's like at least in Alien there was like this argument over, no, you can't fucking bring him inside. He's got a thing on his face. That's no good. Here they're just like, we're bringing these people back because they're maybe people and there's a bat. We're going to bring it all back in. Don't worry about any spaceborne virus or anything like that.
Fair. You were saying this was too complex and complicated, but now you're complaining that it's not complex or complicated enough.
Well,
like
the complication comes later, like because they speed through this first few minutes because I wanted a lot more of this, and then a title card comes up and says 30 days later. It's like, oh, I guess we're not going to, but we do learn more about what happens on the shuttle later. But like. They almost, I feel like there's a lot of scenes where they pluck stuff out to fit it under 2 hours, basically, as much as possible.
Who the fuck knows what they were thinking? They just move characters around to different places, like, as much as possible.
Did you find anything? I found a little bit of something.
I found that it's a sound alike that the NFL has been using for years.
It's very much a sound alike. All the NFL music was composed by Sam Spence. And a lot of people say that the song "The Equalizer" is a variation, or at least, was heavily influenced by Mancini's theme from Lifeforce.
Yeah. I mean, it sounded like it directly to me right away. I expected like Dick Butkus to show up on the big show.
Oh my God! If Dick Butkus was in one of those glass containers,
but similar.
Yeah.
All right,
kind of like the Star Trek 6 music. Sounds like the planets. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But similar.
Yeah. So so basically they spent all the money in the first 5 minutes because 30 days later,
the first 5 minutes and like the last 15, right?
There's lots of stuff happening.
There's lots of money being blown up in the last,
Sure.
The last act, yeah.
So
they didn't need wardrobe for multiple characters, so it's fine.
That is true. Although
what we save on wardrobe.
But here's what's funny about that, though.
It's on the screen, but you won't see their clothes.
Mathilda May, like in the scenes in which she is like the most, like the most sexual, she's wearing something.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, it is weird.
It's too late. I've already seen everything.
She is an ethereal beauty. Man, she is just like the perfect body. Susan was like, "Oh my god, they found Barbie."
But she's not super thin.
But she's got that like
Hourglass figure. Yeah. Yeah, apparently.
I don't know if I've ever seen a more perfect two breasts symmetric than that. I mean, they're amazingly perfect. I don't know if that was a boob job or not, but if so, as a good doctor.
It was Hans Fallada that did it.
She would have been like
Hans Fallada. I don't know what his name
Fallada
is.
Supposedly like some.
That's the doctor from this movie.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Sorry. That as I thought. Then was it? I don't know anybody's names in this. Are you kidding me?
I know Space Girl and Kane. Those are and Carlson. Those are the only ones I really know.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jeff.
And I really only know them as Commander and Colonel. So.
Right.
So, well, there is one other guy. The guy, like the biggest mystery of the whole movie. But anyway, she.
So where are we? They brought them onto the ship.
Yeah, and then it's 30 days later, and then they're like, "All right, well, you got to send the Columbia up."
This is
like
the Columbia. Because the ship finally comes into their
right, and they're like, we don't have any. There's no radio contact. There seems to be something wrong
for sure. It's on the original trajectory that it would have been set if it had it started coming home, but it never changed or something like that. So they know it's not the right entry point.
Right, they should have changed it. Yeah. So they're all like, send up the Columbia, and the Columbia space docks with it, and
it's all burnt out. It's like it's
all
been
burnt out. There's been a fire,
and they do find some corpses.
Yeah,
and they're like, "Yep, crew's dead," but there's one missing.
It's missing escape pod.
Right. But they also find the three people in the crystal.
Yeah.
And
General Zod and his cohorts, basically.
Yeah. They're very
Zod.
Clearly behind like a plexiglass sort of like case, but they keep making a big deal out of the fact that it's of unknown elements, and it's more of a force field than it is a protective barrier, like a solid barrier. It's like, why do you have to go in all this? It's just.
The Doozers made it.
It's a fucking cares? Yeah, I know. I mean, you could have just said it's diamond.
We have multiple conversations about the elemental construct of these space coffins.
It's because there's no.
I mean, it's either they're going to talk about the elemental construct of the constructs, or they're going to talk about the elemental construct of her constructs. I guess they decided to go for the one that didn't sound pervy. But we can talk about that all we want.
I mean, they picked the right person to convey what the men who she sucks the life force out of are describing, right?
Well, but not exactly, because every person sees somebody different. They describe that too.
But they describe that they're in the presence of like the most
perfect person, the most feminine and perfect person ever. Yeah.
And
right, we see Carlson's representation.
We always see Carlson's representation. Even when he's talking to Patrick Stewart, it's her.
Yes.
Which is kind of awesome.
Yes.
Fucking Patrick Stewart in this. He has the greatest moment, and he isn't even there for it.
I mean, it should be the same person, because who do you get better? I mean,
than Patrick Stewart?
No, than Mathilda May. I mean, she's so...
Alexandra Daddario, maybe? I don't know.
Maybe, yeah, but she wasn't...
They'll remake this movie nowadays.
Think about that. She wasn't even born when this movie came out, probably.
True.
So...
yeah, she's on that level, for sure.
So you know why they talk about all this crap, right, in this mumbo-jumbo? Because there's no fucking story to this movie.
There really isn't, because what happens, Space Girl wakes up, and she sucks the life out of a guy, and then
I love this sequence of events, though.
It's amazing. Talk about it.
Do it.
Because, she sucks the life out of one of the doctors, I think. And,
no, it's a guard.
A guard.
It's a guard. The doctor gets it later from that guard.
Yes, right. So you get an understanding of how these creatures work, how this virus transfers, right? Because they don't know what's going on. They figure it out as it happens, right?
Yeah,
and it's really beautifully laid out. So yes, she sucks the life force out of the guard. Then she starts walking through the.
Well, there's another important character who steps in here too, and that's Dr. Bukowski. Now he's the guy who eventually disappears from this movie. I have to assume he dies.
Well,
he does.
Who's
You're
the
told.
guy that shows up
Okay.
later?
No, the guy who shows up later is Colonel Kane.
No, not Kane. The guy, Kane.
Oh, Sir Percy?
Kane is. Yes, Sir Percy.
They swap out Bukowski for Sir Percy.
Because he's.
I don't know why.
Man, Sir Percy.
Well, yeah, I know, but like, there's no reason why you swap those guys out.
But yeah, I know it's weird. He like disappears too, but then he shows up, and it's weird. But anyway, we'll get there.
It's almost like Bukowski's like, I gotta go and change my clothes, and he walks through a door, and then Sir Percy walks back out. It's like, wow, I feel so much better in these new clothes. And it's like, so it might as well they added an extra character they didn't need to, because if they both die, and they both do, then
I don't remember.
Well, Bukowski's a doctor. He's not part of the government, which Percy is. So
yeah, and Sir Percy kind of dies awkwardly. He just gets his neck broken.
Yeah, so you're getting way ahead.
Yeah,
Let
I'm way
Jason
ahead. I'm way
describe
ahead.
this thing.
All we got to worry about right now is she sucked the life out of the guard, which looks amazing, and then she's they're all like, oh, we got a naked woman running through the building. We got to stop her, and nobody can stop her. Like, she fucks up everyone who tries with her electric space vampire powers.
I love the line, don't worry, a naked girl is not going to get out of this complex. Sorry, continue.
And she does, almost immediately thereafter. So then they've got the dead, husk of the guard. And they're like doing some tests, observing that thing. And then it wakes up 2 hours later. It wakes up and it sucks the life out of which doctor?
A surgeon.
A pathologist. Yeah.
Sucks the life out of him and becomes, normal again. The original guard is like.
And then he freaks out. Like, he realizes what he's done.
Right.
Yeah, that's cool.
That they put him in like isolation.
And they're like, we'll see what happens in another 2 hours.
Yeah. And in another 2 hours, like, two things happen, right? The guy who is now the husk wakes back up, needing to get somebody's life force. They've got him strapped down to the gurney. He can't get up. Nobody gets near him, and he just like explodes into dust, which is bad. And then the other guy
is in a cage.
Yeah, he's in like a room or a jail cell of some sort. And
he's like in a storage cage.
Yeah, it looks like a storage room. And then I forget what, like, some similar thing happens to him.
No,
right?
yeah. Well, this is the great scene here because Falada and Bukowski go down to see him, and he sees them, and he's trying to get to them. He goes, and he runs towards the thing, and he hits the cage and all over them.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And the girl is down there too, and something similar happens to her as well. The girl that the girl vampire kills when she leaves.
Yes, because in the 2 hour span, they're like, wait a minute, there's we need to figure out what's going on. They get a call from the cops, and they say, oh, they found a girl who is in unspeakable condition.
Yeah.
Yes.
It must be the victim of our space vampire or space girl.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and Space Girl would be a bitchin' title for a comic book. What are we doing here?
the whole time, Sir Percy's just like the faces he makes while he's observing all the things that are happening are amazing.
Yeah, he's there, and I think Kane is there at this point too. We haven't even mentioned Peter Firth.
Yeah, Kane is there for sure. Because they're piecing like all this together. They're piecing together like these very specific rules for transference that they completely throw out the fucking window in the last act.
Carlson helps throw that out the window too.
Yeah,
because then we get into they're shapeshifters. No, they're possessing people. No, they just change people. No, only the two men can change people. No, wait, no, they have to be the conduit to feed the. But wait a minute. But then she can just fly. Oh my God!
I couldn't have done that.
Too much.
Better. That's perfect. That's That's exactly how I feel about this movie right there.
It's too much. And then there's like 4 million characters involved.
So we haven't even mentioned the two other, and maybe this happens next.
Well, yeah, because the two others.
This does happen next. This happens next.
Yep.
This movie is moving. It's cooking. I'm loving this movie.
Because she wakes up first, and then the two guys. So go ahead, Chuck.
Yeah, so there's guards guarding the two other vampires, the male vampires, who are still in their cages.
Yeah, you'd think they'd put a lot more security down there at this point.
Nah, fuck that. Who cares?
I ain't going down there.
They only saw a woman blow out a window and fly away, basically. What are these guys going to do?
They do have it under control. At least you think they do. Yeah.
Yes. So it's kind of cute when the one guard scares the other guard by tapping them on the shoulder. And then they're like, are they alive? They had this conversation about whether they're alive or not. And the guy's like, I don't know, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then they wake up. And these guards are like, fuck this. We're just going to fucking shoot him and then throw a grenade at him.
Which based
they
on...
load those guys up with squibs.
And based on what we learned from Dr. Fallada later, and what we see Peter Firth do later, after that, those bullets should work. But apparently they can either possess or fuck.
So wait. No. The bullets can work on the non-triumvirate.
Oh God, yes. Right. Okay, that's another rule. All right, so
yes. That's the important distinction for sure.
We need to whiteboard and write down all these fucking...
The people who are non-original vampires, if they get turned, they wake up 2 hours later and have to inflict this on someone else to keep their life alive.
Yes.
The other vampires, the three main vampires, just need to suck life from other people. And they maintain life. There's the other rules about like living in somebody else's mind and shit, which we don't really. I mean, we're going to come to that here pretty soon with Ellen.
Sometimes they make blood puppets.
Yeah, they do that sometimes.
That's my favorite scene in the movie.
That is a great fucking scene. That is fucking awesome. Seeing all of Patrick Stewart's like blood and guts and stuff come out of his face.
God, you're going so far ahead of us.
Well, this movie is practically already there already. We're behind.
So what am I saying? Dr. Fallada is in his office, and one of the previously dead vampire dudes comes walking in as a guard. And he's like, he notices it. And then we don't see him again for like another 45 minutes, right? We think he died.
Yeah, he fucks off. He fucks off.
Oh, man.
Now, also, at this point...
Real quick. I forgot one of my favorite things that happens in this movie. That happens really early on when they were describing what they're seeing in the alien ship, and they said, "We've got a naked woman and two naked men," and then somebody on the ship is like, "We can't see. We need picture."
Picture didn't happen.
And then I added my own dialogue. Did you say nude?
Did you say nude?
We need some nudes.
All right, sorry. I saw that in my notes. I was like, I gotta remember to talk about that.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. So, yeah, and at this point, also we find out that Carlson, that the missing
pod
lands in Texas. And so, they've got, then Fallada, I think, gets the call. It's either Fallada or Bukowski. Bukowski gets the call. And it's like, wait, what do you mean he's at Walter Reed? Okay, well, let's send, so he and Kane go to Walter Reed and get Tom Carlson. And I love, oh my God, how Kane constantly refers to him as this is Colonel Tom Carlson, commander formerly of the Churchill. Churchill. It's like, dude, rub it in a little bit more. Why don't you? It's like, why don't you just say I'm Colonel Tom Carlson? Like,
this is about where I think this stops being a really good movie. Like I was totally actively engaged in everything up until this point, and
that's because there's a perfect nude woman walking around.
That helps.
And now she starts to wear clothing.
But it seemingly has established very specific rules that are easy to understand, and the really cool things have happened. You're like, of course, Railsback's going to come back, and he does. And And I even kind of like where he starts explaining what happened before the fire.
Well, but he
sabotaging of the ship and all that stuff. Yeah.
But he tells a falsehood first.
Yes.
He says that the radio guy.
That later, Jeff.
But he's like, they're like, so what happened up there when they go get him, right? And he's like, oh, well, the first person to go crazy was, I don't know, the ensign communicator guy. And we see that play out. And he's like, yeah, well, we can't have these things get back to Earth. So, but there was a fire.
Doesn't it already start to like break its own rules here?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Because then he's also talking about like how later on he's like, well, she gave me some of her power.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
What rules did it break?
Well, it drains the life force out of each one of these crew one by one, but they don't come back.
Yeah.
For one thing, they don't come back 2 hours later.
Well, we don't know that.
Well, it's not the way it's played out, and unless all of it happened within 2 hours, which I guess it could, then it works. But it's already confusing the rules for me, and they're also like doing it mentally rather than physically.
Yeah.
Well, I think she comes out of the box, honestly.
Probably.
But we don't see any of it. So it's hard to.
Well, here's the other thing too. I read that there was a lot cut.
No, you no way. There's a lot cut out of this movie. I mean, this movie has no connective tissue. If this movie was representative of somebody's body with like bones and muscle and shit, all of the muscle of this movie would be around their ankles because under their skin because there's nothing connecting it to a skeleton.
Yeah, Toby made an 8-hour miniseries, right? No, documentary. He made an 8-hour miniseries, and then someone was like, "Well, Toby, you have a nude person in the first 4 hours. We can't air this on TV, dude." He's like, "Oh fuck."
I mean, that's legit. Yeah, that's legit. But anyway, no, I mean, I'm pretty sure I watched the 116-minute.
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess mine was that. I mean, yeah, it seemed like it the first part was so fast and the second part was so long that I don't know what time is anymore.
That there was more, and then most of it was cut from the spaceship. Most of it that they cut was spaceship stuff.
Of course it was, because that's where all the rules would have been explained.
Yeah, so I don't know what happens, but I start getting confused with how the crew bites it, because it doesn't seem congruent with what we've just learned.
Right.
But I do know one thing: if you ever need kindling, a big old space bat will do it. That fucker will go up like it's like dried out newspaper.
Well, it was dust. They turn into dust, and dust is flammable. Not
the bat. The bat was just a bat. I mean,
no, it was dust. They broke its finger. It's like the same thing. It's
they did. Yeah, that bat was just there was no. I think they even make mention that it was like
it was desiccated. It was desiccated.
Or blood.
They broke its finger because all its fluids had gone into space. Was their description, but that obviously isn't true. It just dried out of life force.
Right.
They do say it's desecrated.
Yeah.
So anyway, still,
those small details.
Get yourself a small space bat and light that fucker on fire, and you're having weenies over the open fire for your camping trip.
But yeah, anyway, they do. Go ahead.
No, you were going to say something.
All I was going to say was they do show him, light the bat on fire, get into the space pod, turn on all the emergency oxygen stuff so the thing goes up in flames and shoots off into space. But he does make himself out to be the hero.
Yeah.
In this instance.
Yeah.
So he is, as Jeff mentioned, withholding some important info.
But he also does he say then, or is it later when he gives that extra piece of info that he didn't want to leave? He did like everything in his power.
He says it then, and then he re-explains it later. Yeah.
Because
it was the hardest thing I ever had to do while he was at the desk. And Kane was like, I can imagine. He's like, no. I mean, I didn't want to leave her.
Yeah. That's good stuff.
Yes, it was very good.
That's kind of like chilling horror stuff. Yeah.
Yes, and I have a feeling some of the story is made this way, and they moved whatever happened on the ship to this point is to build that mystery around
Could be
Carlson's character. It just is never delivered properly.
Yeah.
So you don't have that like stinger, like, oh my God, Carlson
is the key to everything or whatever.
Right. There's
Yeah.
no stinger to it,
Yeah.
which deadens that whole delivery.
Yeah, so we did watch the
Yeah, let's talk
116
about
minute version.
the commander's space powers. Who wants to explain that?
Wait, the commanders? You mean Space Girl space powers?
Well, yeah. Well, how does he have a connection?
Oh, okay. So yeah, he was chosen by Mathilda. We find out more later as to why, right? But he was chosen by Mathilda, and she gives him some of her life force while taking some of his. And this gives her like kind of a psionic, is that the right word?
Yeah,
Sure.
Psionic connection to him, to where he has a view into her mind and she has a view into his, which is important because he can now tell where she is. If he sees her in somebody else's body, which is a new power we learn about, like she can transfer, her body is sitting in a specific place, but she can send her mind as kind of like a parasite in other people's bodies.
Yeah.
I have a question about that though.
Sure.
Because curly redheaded girl is the girl they find in the park that they take to the to the base, and she like monsters out into dust, and then she's in the apartment.
That's not the same girl, I don't think.
No, it's not the same girl. Not the same girl. Definitely not.
She kills that girl for the life force and then finds Ellen later and puts her brain in there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, you're right. You're okay. Yeah.
And they even make a comment. They even make a comment too, and maybe it's Carlson, who is like that. She stopped leaving bodies because they didn't want an easy way to track her. But it's like, well, you gave them an easy way to track her by connecting yourself to the colonel. So I don't know.
Right.
But
well,
Steve Railsback goes in and starts slapping the redheaded curly-haired lady around, and then rips off her robe.
He's like, you just stand back.
You stand back. No, it's not Patrick Stewart.
Well,
it's Kane. And Kane's like, oh, don't
Stewart to leave.
Patrick Stewart wasn't in that scene.
No, they tell
There's too many people talking.
They
did tell him to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, you're not coming in with us. And he wanted to go in with them. And they were like, nope, you can stay. And
that's right. I thought Percy was there. Okay.
And then Carlson
goes in,
I'm going to have to do some shit.
And Kane's like, I'm a natural voyeur. It's like,
yes. Let's make this work.
This movie's horny, man.
Percy is there. He takes Picard away.
He takes Picard away. That's right.
Why not call him Picard?
Yeah. Well, that's Picard. Yeah.
Yes, he takes him away to talk, and he's like, I have a right to know what's going on. But yes, he does. Like, Carlson's looking in her brain, and he's like, I could see she wants me to beat her up to get this information out of her, which is fucking wild.
It's so
and he
wild.
smacks her around, and
and then they make out.
Yes, because that's what turns her on. She's into that shit, and he could see that in her brain because the vampire and him shared her brain at one point, in a way.
Yeah.
Because he has purview into the vampire's brain, which is weird.
So does that woman always have some of her inner brain, or is it just like...
I think he expels her from... I think when they kiss, because then she collapses and is like done for, and so she's like, okay, so she jumped, I think at that point, jumped over to Patrick Stewart.
I think she was already in Patrick
Stewart.
Oh my God, so she can duplicate herself. Fucking Christ.
But I don't think it was like her full... That's where it gets confusing, is I don't think it was like her full self. It was like a residue.
It was remnants. He was trying to get the information that she left in, she being the space girl, in Ellen's brain.
Yeah.
Because Ellen will have memory of what happened while she was there.
Like who she saw. So they wanted to know like who Space...
It's not that complicated, Jeff. This is kind of hilarious.
Space Girl jumped in. They want to know who Space Girl jumped into, and that's when they get the description of the mental patient.
This is a celluloid like fucking shell game. of like what power shows up next or what's going on.
This was all so straightforward to me.
I followed like point A to B to C to D. Just most of it didn't make any fucking sense.
Right. Most of it was why was B, C, D, E, and F there when you could just go from A to G? It's like
it was overly complicated.
Yes.
It was like it's like a video game quest where you have to find the spots of interest and examine them, right? And that's what they're doing. They're doing examining points of interest because there's no story.
They did that really well in the first 5 minutes. There were 2 spots of interest that were a lot more fun to explore than the rest of the movie.
But this does lead us to one of the coolest sequences of events in the movie, in my opinion.
Yes, easily.
Yeah, because they figure out there's a whole thing with like. All right, they think that this mental patient that is in a straitjacket in a cell is who she jumped into. And they're going to shoot him up with this drug. I forget what the hell
they think.
It's basically sodium pentothal.
Yeah.
Or pentothal.
And I think for a minute they do think that it's not sodium pentothal because it knocks them out.
It's something
sedated.
It's similar to that because they said it's a pre-hypnotic. They were going to shoot him up to prepare him for hypnosis so that they can find.
Yeah. But then Patrick Stewart, he just keeps demanding to be in the interview, and
right.
That's when Kane and
Carlson and Kane leave the room. And it's like, let's talk about this for a second. And then they come in and they
Kate immediately says, okay, you can stay. It's funny.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's when they...
Were you guys interested? I knew it was in Patrick Stewart at this point.
Oh, no, Patrick Stewart's too... he's too weird to not be involved in some way. Like, the way he says that the one guy with the facial birthmark was being naughty. It's like, you said that, weird guy. I'm keeping an eye on you.
I knew because I remembered, and I definitely, but I was watching it like, how you remember something, and you're
trying to remember the pieces.
It. Yeah. That's kind of where it was. It was like I remember him being a bad guy.
I knew, and I've never seen this.
When he is very weird acting. It's very off.
But yes. I think for me, I was like, oh yeah, I remember there was this thing with him when he's insisting on going into the apartment, and they're like, we don't need you for this. We just need to interview this lady, and he's acting real squirrely then. Yeah.
And when Tom Carlson allows him in the room, I'm like 1,000% he's going to hit him with this needle. Not
dude. I mean, for sure then. But it's still cool. And
very cool.
And then so now they're interviewing her. Space Girl. They've got Space Girl. They've got her. Yeah.
Oh, and the way she's like, he's about to like hit her with another dose because he tells the one guy, I need like 50 more of these doses. And the guy's like,
what the fuck? This is my boss.
Right. And it's like, no, this guy's a killer.
This is Space Girl.
And right.
You don't know Space Girl?
And then Peter first like, I'm the colonel of space shit. I'll take ownership of this. He's like, okay, I'll get it. I'll go get it.
I'm the colonel of space.
As long as you're responsible for baby Picard.
But then the way, like, he's about to hit her with that other dose, and the way she says there's no need for that is kind of a spooky, because then he realizes he's actually, like, she is now, like, trying to kind of ease him up a little bit, and he's like, fuck that. But the way she says that there's no need for the new it's like, yeah, you better hit her with that, because that's fucking creepy.
But she does win him over. She brings him in for a kiss, and then the bullshit starts happening,
and it kills Percy.
The souls start flying everywhere, knocks Percy into the wall, which breaks his neck and kills him. It knocks Kane down. Kane gets back up and I think kind of levels the situation again by giving her 2 shots in the neck.
Yep.
Which kind of satiates her for just a little while, but yeah, it's madness in there for a couple minutes.
Yeah, but that whole
it's almost bam apocalypse.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because then they get into the helicopter, and this is where the special effects really. This is where the other couple million left over from the first 5 minutes was spent.
Yeah.
Because
I love this scene.
oh my God. So they're like flying on, and then they get the call from Falada, and he's like, hey, I know how to kill the males were impersonating guards, and they came to my office and I killed one. And it's like the old fashioned way. It's got to be iron, not, it can't be steel. It's got to be iron.
Basically traditional vampire killing rules.
It's vampire shit. Yeah.
Which this scene is so expert too, because while they're on the helicopter pilot looks familiar that I almost thought he was one of the guards. And he seems very like untrustworthy, almost like, oh,
he's a little cagey.
He's going to turn on them because he's one of them somehow or whatever. And then all of a sudden the blood starts flying out of Patrick Stewart's face.
And Sir Percy.
So fucking cool. And Sir Percy's face. Yep. Yeah. There's just blood coagulating in the middle of.
And creating like a face of Space Girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. Face of Space Girl. And what does she say? Girl. What does she say exactly? Come to me, Tom Carlson, or something.
Yeah, like that. And basically, it's like saying the plan's in effect. We're going for it, And this is, and like Carlson and Kane are like shitting themselves because it's a fucking blood puppet and it's scary.
Yeah, and they're trying to get to Falada, but
right. My favorite line of it. Go ahead, Chuck.
All I was going to say is they're trying to get to Falada, but the pilot's like, nope, I have strict orders to land at X.
Because NATO has taken over, and Kane's like, NATO!
Yep.
But they land, and it's just a bunch of British NATO guys. So it's like, okay, then you didn't have to say it was NATO. You could have just said it was, fucking
right.
martial law. But anyway, but like NATO... It's like, oh, these guys are going to fuck it up.
Yeah.
So this is when they land and like, yeah, we're trying to get the Dr. Hans Falada. And the one guy's like, we haven't seen him around. Then they bring in the other guy and it's like, do you know who Hans Falada is? And he's like, I've never heard of him. And then
they're like, no,
they're together. Yeah.
No, there's no smash cut. They go talk to the prime fucking minister of...
Oh, that's right. And the prime minister.
The prime minister is eating his secretaries.
And I love that the secretary's name is Miss Havisham. And it's like, is that the only British name you could think of?
Yes.
It's like somebody recently read Great Expectations.
Is Dan O'Bannon, is he British or is he American?
He is not British, no.
Okay.
No.
Just curious. I'm very curious why this was such a British fucking production.
Because I think that's the book, and the book was all in England, I think.
They don't even fake that it's British, though.
I think
it's all British actors and everything.
I think some of it was the intention of Toby Hooper also he was very intentional in kind of making his Hammer film.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because a lot of people, it's been a long time since I've seen Quartermass in the Pit. But apparently, there's a lot of similarities between that movie and this.
Huh.
So yeah, the prime minister's eating his security guards or his secretaries,
and he's squirrely from the start too. He's going to eat somebody.
Oh yeah, Kane and Carlson fuck off, and they
just leave. They don't get anybody. They just leave. They're
just
like,
leave.
well, he's going to be of no help to us.
And they try to go back to London. It's London, right? They try to go back to London, but they're told to hold up because London is now in quarantine.
Right.
And they're going to blow it up.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to end up.
But they're like, but
London.
we know what it is. We know how to stop it. And then Kane goes to see Falada. And Carlson goes to Space Girl.
Right, because Carlson, this is what I was going to say. Carlson is intentionally asking people where X is to mislead Kane so he can go to Y.
Yep. And
he goes to Y, which is at the, what is that?
It's a
church, monastery.
No, Falada says it's a cathedral of some sort.
Yeah,
and he said that isn't that appropriate a cathedral for, I don't know, like a space queen or something.
Yeah, so we see
It's not a great line, but it's like, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense though.
Carlson entering the cathedral, walks downstairs, sees the girl on the platform, and she's like, "Join me. I was all you were meant to be with me. You've been one of us."
Yeah, that's another thing. But anyway, but like basically, yeah, all of the forces from all the people who are sucking life forces from each other are all filtering to her and up to the space dick in the sky.
Right.
But as Falada explains to Kane, before Kane figures out, oh, Falada is one of them now, is that one, he tells you got to shoot him in the chakra, basically. That was not in the book. They added that.
I don't even care about the book. Oof.
Yeah. Well, but there are some things that are very similar in spirit from what I was reading about the differences between the two. But anyway, and Falada's like, you got to shoot him, basically in the chakra. And then he starts to basically reveal that he's now a life force sucker. And so Kane shoots him. And
This is great. Wait, yeah. I want to bring it back a little bit because Falada is infatuated with life after death.
Yes, and that is something from the book, or there is a spiritual reference to something from the book about transcending beyond normal life.
Right, and he's like dedicated basically his life's work to this. Yep. And he's in the intermediary now.
Yeah, and he's discovered that there is life after death.
Yes, and when Kane shoots him, he gets a real broad smile on his face, and he goes, "Here I go," which I was like, "That's so fucking cool." Yep. Like he is living his life's work at this dying, living, whatever you want to call it. His life's work is culminating at this moment,
and he's going to be, and he's going to ultimately join them.
Yeah,
the great consciousness and the space dick in the sky. Yes.
Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. And that's a good scene because like Falada was always on the good guy side, but he always had that tinge of there's something more going on with him, or there was something. I always kind of felt like he
would have opened the hatch door in Alien.
Yes.
He would have let them back in and for a callback. That's the kind of guy Falada is, I think.
But not necessarily though, but not necessarily doing it against the other people that he is aligned with, though. I just think that his curiosity would get the best of him. Whereas in Alien, obviously the other guy is working against the crew.
Sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, while we have this long, Colonel Kane makes his way through London and fights off, zombie vampire people to get to the cathedral. It's 5 minutes of him just running down alleyways and being cut off and blah, blah, blah. But eventually he arrives there and he's carrying what is it? We'll just call it a sword for the sake of argument. I think it's kind of a sword. And he ends up getting blown off the steps by one of the male vampires. And he's at the bottom of the stairs with the sword behind his back. And the male vampire's like, "Hey, you're going to have to come to me to make this less scary."
Yep. Yeah, it's a weird line, but it's actually kind of a good line because the other the other life forces he's collecting to send through to collect from the air to send through his body so that it shoots directly to Space Girl so it can go up into the. Oh my God!
So my question,
but his line is because Kane is completely and totally he's lucid, so he's freaking out about everything, and he's like, yeah, it's going to be a lot, come to me and it'll be a lot less scary.
Right. What's your question, Jason?
My question is, where are all those life forces going on the ship? Are there hosts?
Yes.
Or is it gonna?
Yeah, they're all going in.
All the bat people that have been dried out.
No. There are other crystalline things that line the inside of it.
It almost looks like the the Congress in Star Wars or whatever.
Yeah,
that is, that
I
big.
remember,
Yeah.
but it didn't look like there was anything in them. They were
I think they
fixated
were
on the 3 humans.
I don't think they were opaque like
Right.
the others were.
So they just did a
like-
shitty job investigating.
I mean, they never got to that room. I don't think. I don't know.
Well, that room that had the 3 humans, there were lots of other like crystalline things all along the wall.
Yeah, I think what it's going to do is it's going to go off and find another planet to ultimately spin a girl and 2 guys. Too, I think those 3 vampires were specifically taken out of the wall
because they're
for the
humanoid,
Churchill
to make them look humanoid and because maybe they're also other species and stuff, right?
No, they look however you perceive them. So whatever planet they end up on next, whoever views them,
they might have tentacles
in their own.
Yeah,
we'll see them in their own likeness. But yeah, all of those souls are charging the colony or whatever. If you think of it like kind of like bees or whatever. And then it's going to fly to it's just a world destroyer. That ship is basically a world destroyer.
Why doesn't it just keep trying to destroy this one, though?
I think it does try, but its 3 vampires are killed.
Yeah.
So it
just leaves.
Get back down on Earth. It has no way.
I guess it could. Well, I don't know. That's
much like
traps in space is the only way it can.
I think so. I think in a sort of a way, it's a little bit like
like they'd been here before. So how did they do it the last time? How'd they get?
Well, I think that's that line where they talk about like the vampires and stuff being like the vampires of old. That was cut out of the 101-minute version, or at least it was severely trimmed down so that they don't make that connection. Because then, just like you did, you start asking questions.
But then
we know how
doesn't make any sense.
We know how they beat him last time. It was Van Helsing.
Yeah,
well, yeah, but
that was Hugh Jackman.
How'd they get down on Earth? If they just give up when they don't have any earthly presence,
I think this.
How they get down there?
Yeah, maybe they can come back. But again,
maybe
is
it was
like
an asteroid. Maybe it was invaders from Mars.
It's like Independence Day or whatever. They could have sent more aliens, but we won, and we're like, whatever, fuck, we'll try somewhere else. Sure. This is too hard. Yeah. This place is too hard. Let's go somewhere else.
There's this other planet that'll work just fine.
Yeah,
there's just like Dr. Bukowski. They just fucked off, and we never hear from them again.
Oh my god! If you start asking,
they leave the Halley's Comet and everything because it get the sense of it.
No, they go back to it. That's where they're flying back.
So
they're flying back to Halley's Comet,
so that they're on the path of Halley's Comet.
Yeah.
It's like they're
going to be mighty disappointed when they fly to the next planet, Venus, and not find anything.
Well, maybe they've already toasted that planet.
Ooh, maybe,
yeah, Jeff, they already destroyed all the other planets. They just can't get Earth because we're awesome. Let's talk about how Earth. Yes, Earth. I'm very internationalist. Let's talk about how we get them to fuck off because we're pretty much at the end here, right?
Yeah. So they got to make space love. So Carlson and Space Girl start like
consummating the destruction of Earth, basically,
because like he needs to give her back some of the power that she gave him. And she's like, join us. It's so much fun, whatever. And he's like, I don't know. This seems like she might be kind of right. It's kind of fun. But Kane comes along and he's like, hey, Carlson, I got this sword. And he takes it and then he stabs her and him.
Through the chakra mobile.
Through the chakra. And they fly up into the spaceship and then they leave. They just leave.
They fuck and then they fuck off.
And pretty much, and they just leave the little sword behind. And Carlson goes outside and looks up into the air like, wow, that was kind of cool. And then football music, and we're done.
Yeah, this movie certainly did itself a disservice by trying to explain everything. Like, if it was just a fun monster movie without like half explanations almost, because obviously to you, Jeff, it invested you too much in reasons instead of just letting you roll with it, which I think is important for this movie. I just rolled with it.
Right. And I think that if the movie is called Space Vampires, I'm sitting here thinking, all right, I don't need to worry about shit. These are space vampires.
It tried to have too much mystery and too many twists and turns when it could have been very straightforward.
It tried to be too much of a real movie, and it didn't have to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's almost as if
this is an episode, we just talked about this a few weeks ago. It's like an episode of Tales from the Dark Side or something like that, where it could have been a 30 to 40 minute story of like
space vampires.
Space vampires.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, Jeff.
No. I was just saying, it's like, it tries to be too serious. It takes itself too seriously.
Right.
When we talk about the movie for next week, it's the complete opposite. Whereas, sometimes a movie should take itself seriously, and sometimes a movie can take itself seriously and still be about space vampires, but maybe you don't have to.
What's interesting about next week, too, is that it doesn't take itself seriously, which lends itself to the drama actually working.
Right. Exactly.
Before we talk more about next week, I think I have a better reason for why this was a British production. It's because that was around the time that Cannon was buying up everything, and they owned Elstree Studios. They owned like 40% of the British film industry at that time.
That's wild.
So it was a production out of their UK London studio. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Kind of wild. Yeah, they were. In fact, I learned this because I just recently rewatched the Cannon Films documentary, Electric Boogaloo. It's a really good watch. And yeah, there was actually, I think, a lot of consternation in the UK at the time too, that this like B movie crazy studio owned, so much of their industry.
Of course.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
I have a question then.
This was also the most expensive Cannon film to date. And it was probably the beginning of the end because it was a huge bomb.
Yeah, and real quick, I do want to bring up, since we're talking about Cannon and this is Tobe Hooper, I do want to bring up the whole Tobe Hooper Cannon Films thing.
Yeah.
So really what Cannon Films wanted was Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Yeah, yeah.
That was something that Tobe Hooper had been kind of kicking around for a little while. So, they were like, well, we want that movie because horror was big, and Cannon didn't really have many horror movies in their lineup. They had New Year's Evil back in like 1980 or 81, whatever that was. And then they didn't really have many other horror movies.
And they were kind of notorious for buying up properties and making sequels to them, right?
Death Wish. Yeah. And they were just like, they were the one thing that a lot of people always complain about nowadays, which is, oh, you're only giving people like the really kind of baseline, like, oh, this thing is popular, then we will give you something just like it. And that sort of stuff. Now, interestingly, it was during this time also, Cannon was a little bit interested in having some auteurs.
They worked with Zeffirelli.
Yeah, so they had guys.
They worked with Jean-Luc Godard.
Yeah, so they had guys like that, and I think to a certain extent they thought, well, maybe Tobe Hooper would do something horror auteurish, and we would have, and so we'll give him 3 movies if he, because he's like, give me a deal and I'll make your Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Yeah. Now, what's interesting is that Lifeforce was the first of the 3.
It was, yeah.
The second one was the Invaders from Mars, which was just a almost direct remake of the 50s version. And then Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2 was the third of it. And what they got was not what they thought they were buying.
Yeah, they were really upset.
They were quite upset over the fact that Tobe Hooper was making a dark comedy instead of a straight gore fest splatter sequel. And they were already not exactly, I don't think they gave two shits about Lifeforce or Invaders from Mars. They just wrote the checks because they had they had a 3-picture deal. I don't think they liked anything that Tobe Hooper did.
They were all in on Lifeforce. They really were. They were like, this is going to be our big studio picture, and they loved it. It just didn't perform.
No.
And then Invaders from Mars, I think they were kind of checked out on that one for sure. In fact, they were getting it confused with other movies when they were watching the dailies and stuff.
Those are two guys I wouldn't show any dailies to. It's like, just write the fucking checks. You ain't giving me input.
Well, a lot of people talked about how if they didn't like what they saw today, you could show them the same footage tomorrow and they'd love it.
Yeah.
And then, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which ironically is the only one of the three that made money, but
almost double.
It didn't make nearly what they would have wanted to.
No, and it's also a movie that is very, to this day, derisive in the fandom.
But it's so fun. It's so much fun.
I like it.
But they were even saying inside the Canon Films, they're like, "What? You didn't know this was going to be a parody?" I mean, you've got the billboards up on Hollywood Boulevard with them posing like the Breakfast Club, and you still didn't get it? Is this a surprise to you? That's Golden Globus for you, though.
They probably were like, "What's the Breakfast Club?"
Yeah.
I did want to say I quite like Peter Firth in this movie.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that, like, as much of a Brit as he is in this, he's actually a pretty good kind of like action guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
like if he, like I could see him leading. Like if he played like a hard-boiled detective or something in a movie, I'd buy it.
Yeah, he was good. I liked him and Frank Finlay as Hans Fallada.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was good too. Yeah.
Mathilda May didn't have a lot to do. I guess she was like an erotic film star. And I think that's why they got her, because she was okay.
No, she wasn't really an erotic. Not really. At the
all
time,
the movies I looked at, she was erotic.
Oh, I think she was just in a lot of French movies. I don't know.
Yeah, she was only like
giorno dopo giorno. Sorry,
she was definitely Italian.
I mean, she was only like 19 or 20 when they made this movie. So
this was
not like
second. This was the second feature.
I guess when I looked at her other movies, like she was in a movie about breastfeeding where someone's fixated on, like, that's one of her famous movies.
Weird.
Well, that's a French movie.
Yeah. So I don't know.
No, I just think
Tit and the Moon is what it's called from 1994. Yeah.
Yep.
Huh.
But no, she's
in a lot of shit. Holy crap.
Yeah. So I mean, like, yeah, she was
in her career. She's still making them. She's still working. Good for her.
Yep.
She's only 58. I mean, that's
true.
That's true. Like saying, like in 10 years, I hope you say to me and Chuck, "Oh, wow, you guys are still working. Good for you."
Well, I mean, there's a difference between staying in the industry versus finding a job.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah. We'll be able to find a job, Jeff. We might just be greeters at Walmart in 10 years.
I look forward to those days.
Mm-hmm.
2012, she was in a segment of a movie directed by Jean Dujardin.
The Players.
Yeah. He's he won an Academy Award, so.
Yeah.
Good for her.
Anything else to say about this fucking wild ass movie, excuse me, before
no.
Before we fuck off to Haley's comment?
Yeah.
No, I mean, hey man, it's a weird movie. It is
a weird movie. It's extremely watchable.
Yeah. It is. Now that I've seen it, I think my next watch of it is going to be much more enjoyable because I'm going to know what I need to do.
Well,
Right?
Shut off your brain.
My
And
problem was
Yeah.
it'd been just long enough since I'd seen this that I didn't fully remember it. Right.
Right.
So that's why
Right.
I'm like trying to piece it all together, and I'm forgetting to have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
This
I mean-
puzzle box fell on the floor, and 7 of the pieces didn't get picked back up for sure.
Right. Well, I mean, this is no, the puzzle box fell on the floor and fucking Pinhead came out of it and tortured some of us for some of it. So,
Jesus.
but anyway, no, it's here's the thing: the look, the design, all of it is top notch. You know, I mean, it's just it took itself too seriously.
Fair.
But you know what movie doesn't take itself very seriously and works twice as well?
I don't know, so I'm going to ask Jason. Do
Join
you know?
us next week for some party time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What movie, though?
Return of the Living Dead.
Yes.
One of my favorite movies ever made. Quite honestly, I've called this movie the most watchable movie in the world.
It's a movie that I've seen so many, like between this and the second one, I've seen so many times that for a long time, I confused things about like which one was in which movie or like which scene was in which movie.
I've
makes
only
sense.
maybe seen the second one or two times, and it's been since I was a kid.
Well, they play it on cable all the time.
I know
in the
it's not
80s
very
and
good.
90s.
Um,
Yeah.
The second one is the one I know the best, at least up until a few years ago, but we'll talk about that next week.
I couldn't even. I
Sounds
barely
good.
remember to. It's been so long since I've seen it. Yeah, but yeah, we'll talk about all of this and more next week on Film Seizure.
All right, yeah, that's next Wednesday. That is our
Shut her down.
that is
Jason
our
did the
Halloween
thing.
episode.
Sorry.
So yeah, so join us, get in costume a week early or 6 days early. We'll talk about some zombies. Next Monday is also on filmseizure.com is a new episode of Monster Mondays, which is the Amityville Horror. So
The original?
the original. Yeah.
Nice.
Interesting. It was interesting watching it this time because I have opinions about like the whole story and everybody involved with turning this into a story. So I talked a little
Tune
bit
in
about
for that.
Yeah, tune in for that. So yeah, that's Monday afternoon. So yeah, that's the 23rd, filmseizure.com. That's also where you can listen to all of our shows, where you can follow us on the social medias and the whatnots. This upcoming Friday at my website, bmovieenema.com, I have Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, and hopefully the last time I will ever talk about Freddy Krueger on that site, which also happens only to be the second time I talk about Freddy Krueger on that site. So I'm just not a Freddy Krueger guy, man. Anyway, so that is this Friday at bmovieenema.com. Read that review if and you don't mind. All right, so until next week, yeah, I'm just gonna say that I'm Jeff Arbuckle.
I'm just going to say that I'm Chuck Moore.
And I'm Jason Oliver. That's all I'm going to say.